Okay, so I've been part of this group for a while now, and I really love reading and listening to everyone's story. But I've kind of refrained from posting one myself because, as you can probably tell by my accent, I'm British. But I thought since it's 4th of July, I thought I'd share my walkaway story. Um, so despite my nationality, I've always really loved the United States. I'm actually trying to visit all 50 states. I'm currently on 34. I'm only 25, which is some doing. And I even have part of the Declaration of Independence tattooed on my back, on my left shoulder here. I have a full copy of it in my corridor. The quote you can see on my wall there is from Abraham Lincoln about the better angels of our nature from the Gettysburg Address. And I even have an American flag on my door. So if I turn here, you can see my American flag on the door there as well. Um, and yeah, so you might think me doing this as a having all this as a Brit is kind of strange, and that's kind of why I wanted to put a video here talking to you. So for me, I adore the United States. I love it. The values, mainly freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Here, our government is clamping down on that a lot, which is pretty bloody tragic. But we were never really sort of taught any American history at school, at high school. So I sort of studied American politics and history in my own time outside of my engineering degree, and outside of my job. So for the past 7 years or so. And as a result, I'd always admire people like Thomas Jefferson. I still do. But I was always a really huge fan of JFK. His comments on things like think not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It always resonated with me loads, and still does today, despite my political leanings. Um, but as I got into politics, particularly American politics, I was what you guys would call a liberal, when the left was liberal. I used to love John Oliver, the Young Turks, which I'm really ashamed to say, and Bill Maher. Although I do still watch Bill Maher, despite the fact he's not really sticking to a lot of his principles as much now, and at times can just be as bad as the rest of the left. At times, not always. And kind of the longer I watched and listened, particularly with John Oliver, it was so one-sided to the point I could start to see such blatant flaws. It's just things like deliberately misconstruing the arguments, breezing over the other side of the argument, just being like, oh, by the way, here's this one thing that might be relevant to the argument, but I'm going to keep going with what I'm talking about. And it was so exaggerated and so blatantly one-sided. I just thought, this just isn't right. It's not. I was always brought up at school to look at both sides of the argument. And at that age, I didn't really do a lot of that myself. I didn't force myself to do that. A lot of the media I was consuming, and obviously a lot of the films and mainstream media I was listening to, was all just bombarding me with the same sort of leftist narrative. So I kind of started to watch other political commentators and shows. I discovered Ben Shapiro. I'm sure most of you will undoubtedly know. And it felt like he was just speaking my language in terms of responsibility, civil discourse. Gave me a massive different cultural view on the United States that I guess despite being there so many times and having visited so many states that I'd never really thought about as much or really had considered, which was kind of strange and kind of worried me a bit that I hadn't experienced that. And I disagree with him on a couple of things, but a lot of what he and others said kind of made me question everything I thought I knew. Even when I listened to people like Steven Crowder, we don't get a lot of conservative comedians here either. So that was a big plus. And I was actually kind of really desperate to find out people like Ben Shapiro were wrong. I was determined to sort of do my research and just be like, yeah, this guy can't be right. This stuff can't be right. And actually kind of found I was wrong. And I'm laughing now because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that I would never even consider that half the country, obviously you'd think, oh, they're wrong when they're not, and obviously you'd think, why would half the country vote for these people if they were wrong? And through doing so, especially because I was so interested in American politics and history, I found out about the Democratic Party's racist history, and all their failures, which I just never heard about. Obviously admiring JFK and partly LBJ afterwards, it kind of didn't seem realistic to criticize or to even think what did they do wrong. Yeah, it's even going shooting, for example, in the United States, learning about guns, about the Second Amendment, If you if you'd have asked me a couple of years ago, I'd never really have even considered the other argument on the Second Amendment. I'd watched Bowling for Columbine, so as you can imagine, kind of got sucked into the whole Michael Moore spiel, and that was partly because I knew nothing about guns as well. I'd used a couple here in England, but nothing major. Still in a very controlled environment in the countryside, shooting clay pigeons. So obviously using things like an AR-15s and an AK-47 and some more sort of larger weaponry. I'd never really thought about why somebody would need that, and I'm still a bit mixed on the topic, but it was venturing into the unknown for me. And even so, you guys know we had Brexit here, but even pre-Brexit and pre-Trump, the left had just kind of descended into kind of sheer ignorance, really. A lot of hatred and intolerance for any view but themselves, their own view. And for me, I was liberal, but that seemed so illiberal. It was completely the opposite of what kind of values I had and I hold dear. So it, because it was so contradictory, I found it pushing me away. It actually even dated at somebody. Things were great, but as soon as you started talking about politics and things like that, she stopped seeing me because I wanted lower taxes and because I was criticising the identitarians on the left. I think there are a lot of good people still on the left. However, it was more the identitarian side which I was criticising, and it baffled me that having a different opinion made her think, no, I'm done. I don't want to date you, and it just pushed me towards more conservative ideas. If anything, I started reading more Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman. I'd never thought about freedom from an economic point of view. I'd only ever thought about it from I don't know, like a rights and social point of view. So things like criticising the minimum wage, here in England, that just goes down like a dead balloon, like a lead balloon. But it's important because I never would have even considered those arguments before. I would never even thought that where would the validity would be in those arguments. So I read and listened to some more conservatives sort of standing up for freedom, and it was kind of weird because looking back on old videos and things, they kind of always had been. And I was just obviously, as everybody was, bombarded with Republicans are evil, and I never listened. Now I listen to people like Dan Cranshaw and Rand Paul, and I just think, what the hell was I thinking? This is the same narrative as it was kind of going through the past couple of years, and I just ignored it because I was told these people were evil or were just had bad interests at heart. So even when I've been to the United States, I've been trying to visit every state, but when I went to Texas in the South, as a result, it meant I stereotyped people, thinking loads of people would be sort of backward, racist, rednecks, the whole lot. When actually people were lovely, they were friendly, they were just the most welcoming people and great people. And I love going back to the South and to Texas. Texas is my favorite state. And I realized what the left had done to me in terms of prejudging people without having met them, never experiencing their culture and what they're like. And it made me really sad. So to any Southerners, I'm really sorry for thinking that way. At least now I've left the left. But people across America, they get such bad coverage over here and in other countries from the mainstream media. So every time I come over to the United States, it's just great that you guys completely smash the narrative, and you're always really lovely and welcoming to me, and I really appreciate that. So now I'm a libertarian. I'm probably not as pro-Trump as some of you, but I'm glad I can now say praise him when he's doing something right, and still criticize him when he's doing something wrong. But it meant I'm not an ideologue. I can criticize, and I'm just not got this leftist narrative of, oh, I must think this certain way, and it feels liberating. I actually went to a Trump rally in California as a sort of neutral party in 2016 when he'd secured the Republican nomination. And the Democratic protesters outside were hurling insults, physical objects. They were trying to start fights and were being very violent. And I was in this queue with a bunch of Trump supporters, and they were just lovely. They were just the loveliest people. And it really, that again completely smashed my narrative. I just thought, these guys have been getting loads of bad press coverage, but look at those Democratic supporters over there having to be held back by loads of police officers just to hear this guy speak. I mean, it was madness. So that really did blow the narrative I had on Trump as well. So it wasn't just obviously Republicans, but obviously it was Trump as a different phenomenon. And I kind of want to bring this back around to what today's all about, because for me, today's about freedom. It's about why good ideas always prevail. and when people stand up for them, what the power they can have. So it's why I, as a British guy, can be talking to you with part of the Declaration of Independence tattooed on my back, and celebrate the 4th of July, because it's about celebrating the freedom that was earned through brave individuals who stood up for freedom, and the rights that allow them to exercise those freedoms to this day. It's why I really enjoy listening to what you guys have to say, what everyone has to say about their own personal experience and how it's differed, but with that same similar theme. And it's great to hear you guys doing just that to this day, when the left tries so hard to violate your rights and shut down your speech, particularly on social media. So I just wanted to say from England and from me personally, keep doing what you're doing, keep stories coming, and I really hope you all have a fantastic 4th of July weekend.